Good afternoon and welcome to this month's show. I'm Luke McCormack. During today's show, we will discuss critical issues facing government and industry leaders with our cybersecurity strategies and solutions. With me on today's show are Ron Pontius, Deputy to the Commander, U.S. Army Cyber Command; Hemant Badewin, Acting Deputy Chief Information Security Officer, Department of Homeland Security; Freddie McCardo, Deputy Chief Information Security Officer, Defense Intelligence Agency; Jim Richburg, Field Chief Information Security Officer at Fortinet; Martin Kessler, Chief Information Security at Verizon Business Group; and Matthew Glenn, Senior Vice President, Product Management at Illumio. Well, this is certainly a very important topic, always is, certainly very important with this administration coming in. $9 billion being proposed in the Technology Modernization Fund. A lot of that is to modernize systems. A lot of that is certainly to address security issues. Ron, let's start with you and just tell us, give us a state of the state as to what's happening over at U.S. Cyber Army Command. I understand that you guys have moved your command and a lot of stuff going on over there these days.
Yes, the command moved from the National Capital Region down to Fort Gordon, Georgia this past year. Of course, we did that while we were doing, everybody was, us like everybody else, in the COVID environment, but the move went extremely well, and that's where we're operating from now. So the big things, and staying kind of with COVID, I would say what we've really learned this year in the Army is the ability to do remote distributed operations. And Microsoft, working with the Department of Defense leadership, Mr. Dana Deasy, the DoD CIO, rolled out a capability just for the DoD. It's called Commercial Virtual Remote, or CVR, which is essentially Impact Level 2 Microsoft Teams. And the Army has absolutely embraced it. And there's close to 500,000 people every day using it. And it's fundamentally changing how we're doing business in the Army. Like our Training and Doctrine Command, General Funk is saying, let's make sure we bring the training to the soldier, not the soldier to the training. So it's fundamentally changing how we're doing things. Of course, the implications of that from a cybersecurity point of view, it absolutely reinforces the pace of which we need to keep moving towards, a zero trust environment where every device is at least privileged. And we're on that path, but it's accelerated in many ways. We're continuing to really mature and grow our big data analytics, our big data platform, which is incredibly important to be able to not only see ourselves, but to see anomalous behavior and potential adversary behavior. And there's also initiatives going on. Lieutenant General John Morrison, the Army G6, is spearheading an effort to really improve our risk management framework. Really, assessment is too much time has been spent on the upfront paperwork, and he's really adjusting it to be much more about getting to the monitoring and a continuing assessment. So things are all moving in the right direction.
It's amazing what COVID has done in regards to, one, obviously opened up sort of the threat vector, right? I mean, that exposure, but also now has created this environment where, particularly like yourselves, right? The Army, which is very much, certainly base oriented, guards, gates, lots, the whole bit, right? And all of a sudden now you've created this very secure environment that you're able to have more of a remote capability and address that from a different kind of dynamic, which is fantastic. We hear about that a lot, hear about zero trust architecture a lot as well. Hemant, we had your prior CIO on the show, actually at the end of last year. And she was talking about NOSC and talking about zero trust architecture. It sounded like there's a whole lot of stuff going on over there at Department of Homeland Security. So get us up to speed as to what's happening.
Yeah, thank you, Luke, for asking. And yes, indeed, there's a lot going on, all good things. And I think we talked about a little bit, Luke, you mentioned the COVID and kind of the way the telework posture has changed. So, I'm really impressed how well things are moving forward in DHS, with our critical cybersecurity initiatives, especially during this time, right? And there are a couple of things I think you mentioned. The NOSC initiative, this is one of the key initiatives that we recently accomplished by aligning, our OCIO Cybersecurity Operations Center with the Network Operations Security Center, also known as this NOSC model. Now, this is helping us mitigate, the current cybersecurity challenges, right, by providing real-time operational and security situational awareness, which is really important. And this model is really also helping us in identifying potential issues with preventing outages and defending the DHS assets from hostile threats. Um, and Luke, as you know, one of the main things we're doing is, really aggressively moving from on-premise to hybrid cloud computing, throughout the enterprise, right? This is really important. I think we talked about COVID and the pandemic and the telework posture. This has really helped us to be successful in addressing these risks that are posed by rapidly expanding telework over these last, actually it seems like a year now. Right, so that's been really good. And even before that, we have been emphasizing the importance of cyber hygiene to our employees, and we continue to do that. That's very important that the employees are aware of that. And we have put in, enhanced infrastructure capable of handling increased telework. That's been really helpful. Besides that, we have in actually last year in FY20. Implemented the CSP program, actually, in close partnership with DoD and kind of looking at their program, which is a cybersecurity service provider program. And I think that was really key, very successful for us as well. We developed that to inspect all DHS component cybersecurity operation centers against that framework and maturity standards. That was key. The transition of this model, the service delivery model, has really matured our capabilities and really, truly promises to have a continued impact for not just for DHS, but working closely with CISA and their QSMO model for other federal agencies as well. So we were actually, did a fantastic job in assessing all the component SOCs. This is ensuring that, all our endpoints get efficient and, more importantly, uniform protections against cyber adversaries. And then lastly, Luke, I'll mention, this always comes up, the cyber workforce, right, is getting increasingly difficult to compete with the private industry, especially in federal government. So we are in process of implementing the cyber talent management system in close collaboration with our CHICO. And it's really the purpose behind that is to streamline hiring and improve the quality and quantity of professionals in the pipeline that are ready to join this incredible mission. We are actually moving forward to a proactive recruiting approach with the CTMS model and creating a multi-path hiring assessment aimed at getting the top talent to DHS. I mentioned, this will definitely allow us to compete with industry for new cyber talent, and the building blocks are there. We were able to establish the program. I think it's just, going to be implemented here very soon, and I'm very excited about that.
That's fantastic. Talent management, always a big issue. And as you change your environment, that attack surface gets changes and evolves. And great to hear this sort of cross-pollination of talent coming from DoD over to DHS, et cetera. I know some of that NOS stuff, I think, actually was originated out of the DoD. Freddie, how about at DIA? I think I saw a quote from your CIO where he said, the technology is not the issue, it's the culture that's always the challenge. So tell us what's happening over at DIA.
Well, due to the pandemic, it's been a real challenging year, but we've been very successful. As you know, with DIA, most of our work that we do is on a top secret network. Mm-hmm. So when the pandemic happened, we had to go ahead and go into the unclassified world and establish, VPNs, establish, Microsoft Teams so we can collaborate and go to IL2 right now for mail services. So it was a challenge, and we've been very successful at it. It doesn't mean we're stopping. We're actually going to stay with that telework capability for the workforce, because the pandemic showed us that we need to have something else in order to be able to operate. So we're still maturing in that area. And one of the efforts that we have been working on, it's a multi-year effort that we started here in 2018, was securing the DODIS Enterprise, or Department of Defense Intelligence Information System. Mm-hmm. Basically was looking at all of our core networks. We have 4 core networks spread around the globe, and looking at all the security vulnerabilities that we really need to attack, and say, okay, what can we do to get take these vulnerabilities and finally mitigate them and ensure we have a more secure state instead of just being compliant. So we basically did that. And then as a result of that, one of the big initiatives that we just about almost completed before COVID hit was hard token multi-factor authentication on the top secret network. We pretty much were at like 80%. We still had some remote locations around the world that we had to get to, but then COVID came and we had to stop because you couldn't travel, folks couldn't travel. Make sure that all the users were trained, they had tokens in hand, make sure the infrastructure was ready to go. We're just about getting ready to turn that on. So that's been a big initiative of that Securing DOTIS campaign that we started. And again, Securing DOTIS campaign is a multi-year effort. So that's been the exciting stuff that we've been doing at DIA.
It really is remarkable how a turn of events leads to all kinds of, in some cases, great activity. Who would have thought that the DoD at large, could operate in sort of this remote environment, knowing how secure and all the, that situation, that configuration that you guys are required to work in, and how you've been able to sort of, as a community, kind of, technology muscle your way out of that, so to speak. Jim, you see a lot of this across the spectrum, right? You're seeing it across the various agencies. You're seeing it in the private sector. Tell us from a Fortinet standpoint, what are you seeing? What have you seen over this last year?
Well, Luke, good afternoon. And as my federal colleagues have said, we all made the pivot to remote telework. We were now faced with endpoints that were in an environment that agencies did not control, that in many cases did not have visibility in, that innately had more vulnerability than the enterprise environments that we classically worked in. So we in industry, places like Fortinet, helped increase endpoint security for them, but table stakes for everyone was an encrypted connection back to the headquarters or the data center in. So we also worked with our federal partners to make sure that they had the capacity to do that kind of real-time inspection, because otherwise the integrity of the endpoint is a single point of failure. And if that gets popped and compromised, we've talked about zero trust already. The predicate for zero trust is you've got to be able to do that kind of inspection. But even while we worked with our federal partners to help the pivot to remote telework, we also worked with them to enable them to continue to make some fundamental changes in their networks. And I think the biggest success story, to my mind, over the past year was SD-WAN. A lot of federal agencies continued to say, look, we're changing the way we deploy our network topology around the country, and we should move away from the wired T1 type of approach in favor of software-defined networking. And that was a trifecta because it gave them cost savings, it gave them better user outcome, it gave them the ability to set these service levels for things like this video conference and not social media, and it can be innately a more secure environment too. So we worked with federal partners in civilian and military areas, ranging from healthcare to criminal investigation, to roll a lot of this out last year. And what was really intriguing to me was to see software-defined networking and zero trust come together. We worked with one federal agency that had to support criminal investigations across the country. So they went to an SD-WAN solution that gave them the ability to have these field sites that could both work with each other in headquarters, but also be doing dark web investigations, and to do this based on a zero trust premise. So I think we in industry, places like Fortinet, have continued to help them deploy this kind of technology to be nimble in the face of COVID and to start moving away from an old approach to networks.
Right, and that's sort of the catch. To me, that's the silver lining. It's like, okay, we've gotten everyone remote. They are secure. Break. Now all of a sudden, we're unlocking all these new capabilities to modernize, transform, flex, using these various types of capabilities like SD-WAN, et cetera. Martin, how about over at Verizon's business group? Once again, here's a situation where you have a complex network internally that you're trying to deal with, right? A big, large enterprise vendor, if you will, partner. And then you're trying to address that capability out to all these federal agencies. So tell us what 2020 looked like for you guys.
Thank you, Luke. When I think about what defines progress and success for cyber programs, a key indicator, just as my colleagues have alluded to, is the business priorities and the transformations that have been securely enabled. So just like the other folks have mentioned, both internal to Verizon and certainly as we've supported the missions of our public and our private sector customers. The most important success was that secure enablement of that massive shift to remote working. I think as a profession, we've talked a long time about embedding cyber into culture and into processes, and that was really put to the test during this transition because of the scale and the speed that it happened last year. The workforce shift also accelerated the adoption of cloud-based productivity tools and the migration of applications from on-prem to the cloud, things that were already on the digital transformation roadmap for our customers, but were accelerated due to the conditions. So I think we'll all remember many things about 2020, but that secure enablement, first of our Verizon mission, but then most importantly of our customers' missions, that will always stand out to me. I think another area that we've seen a lot of progress over the last year and is just core cyber defense. We know that attacks take place at machine speed, so we have to continually improve our protective solutions and our ability to detect and respond, increase automation, increase the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So that's been very critical over the last year, internal to Verizon and certainly with our customers. And then a third area I'll highlight from a Verizon perspective is we've long approached cyber as an ecosystem issue. And that's why we consider our thought leadership and publications to be so important each year. So this past year, we're proud that we issued our 13th edition of the Data Breach Investigations Report. That includes data-driven lessons learned from over 32,000 security incidents across 81 contributors, the most ever. And we also released a cyber espionage report and several others that really aim to raise the cybersecurity bar for our internal program, our customers, our partners, and really any organization around the world. So really continue to be pleased with the progress in that area.
And I know that that report is a staple in the industry, and a lot of people rely on that. And it's great to see that you're using some of these advanced technologies like AI, et cetera, to fight the good fight. Matt, how about over at Illumio? You all are right smack in the middle of trying to, make sure that these environments stay safe through some very unique capabilities. What are you seeing out there? What have you seen over the past year in respect to introducing some of these capabilities?
Thank you for having me. The answer to that is, and I think multiple speakers have touched on this, which is, a couple of keywords. One is zero trust, and the second one is mindset. I think that, if you don't know Illumio, in the private sector, we have the largest zero trust deployments in the world. We've been actively working with NIST on 800-207, which is the Zero Trust Cybersecurity Framework, and really bringing those learnings into the federal government. The mindset of zero trust is default deny, only allow that which you know and you trust. Traditionally, the mindset has been outside in, meaning the user in. And that was exacerbated by COVID as we transformed from an on-prem workforce to an off-prem workforce. However, that mindset created some gaps. And that gap is thinking about the endpoint rather than really worrying about where the data is, which is, of course, the data center. So the transformation of that mindset is how to basically do something I call retro segmenting or retro zero trusting, an environment where there's just implicit a device can go anywhere. The core mindset of zero trust, of course, is to assume breach. Assume that something inside your environment has already been compromised. And how do you basically eliminate that compromise from spreading laterally within the environment? So what we've been actively doing is bringing the learnings that we've had in probably the largest zero trust data center deployments in the world and bringing that mindset into NIST, teaching them how you can go into legacy environments as well as cloud environments and create zero trust. But the most important thing is not disrupt the missions. Nobody wants to bring down a critical mission in the interest of just saying they got to zero trust. It's a very delicate balance to sort of map out because you don't want to disrupt the core capability of the agency that we're working with. And so a key component to that is visibility. to create those zero trust pockets or compartments within an existing data center or in the public cloud, and then how to enforce them. And a lot of that is really teaching the workforce, people and process is going to be very, very important on how you go in and you get to zero trust in an environment where there really has been no lateral control in a data center and public cloud. So we're really trying to teach the different agencies how to do that. And yes, we have a different approach, but regardless of the approach, the mindset is what has to come first. Default deny, only allow that which you should allow.
Absolutely good way of operating and very important in this type of environment, and certainly want to protect the blast zone. Well, let's take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.